Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning into this. If you are watching this, that means that you either purchased this, someone purchased it for you, you stole it, um, you're watching it with someone, or someone sent it to you that paid for it. No matter how you got to this information, God wanted you to have it, in my opinion. So thank you very much for watching. At m3dust.com, that's where I have more of these, and I kind of struggle to call these teachings because these are I would say this particular one, called the One Generation Payback, part of it is a testimony, and part of it is information that I learned when, listening to a sermon. There was something that was said in a sermon, and I took it and I went a little bit deeper, and I found some information, and then I applied it to my life. And so I'm in the midst of this happening, which lets me know that it's true. And so I'm sharing it with everybody. Like I said, it's partially a testimony, partially a teaching, but then finally it's hopefully going to be an encouragement to people who consider themselves African American or Black. This is going to be an encouragement to us, and it kind of is also going to be an encouragement to non-Black, non-African American people. It's kind of going to be an encouragement to them too. Okay. The way that I'm going to do this is, first, I'm going to give an introduction. Second, I'm going to read the main parts of the story that I want to discuss. And I've already recorded that. My son and we did it together. So that'll be the second thing that you see. And then finally, the third part of it is the actual expounding on everything and going through these particular points. These are the points. If I were going to summarize everything, before I were to get into the introduction, if I were going to summarize it, here's what I am presenting to you. And that's this. Here's what I'm presenting. I'm presenting that the descendants of slavery have a harvest available to us, to all of us. And I'm naming it the One Generation Payback. It could be called something else by someone else. When you hear everything that I've got to say, and you finally get the point of what I'm trying to say, someone else may have already put this out, and they've given it a different name. My advice would be, go with that name, or go with what they're saying over mine. But anyway, the One Generation Payback, which is what I'm calling it, that's the spiritual benefit from slavery. There are many people in America, and you can trace their lineage in the natural. You can trace their natural lineage, their family tree. You can trace it back. And the people who benefited from slavery, the family lineages that have benefited from slavery, they know they benefited from slavery. They may not talk about it. They may not brag about it. And they may not be ashamed about it. And I don't think that they should be ashamed of it. Slavery and America is a tough discussion for different people and for different reasons, and it can be emotional. It can be an emotional discussion. I don't know if I've ever seen an actual number that is fully backed up and studied out to say the country benefited in X amount of dollars and in X amount of ways. There's generally speaking, whatever, but everyone that I've talked to about slavery, I won't say everyone, but everyone that I've talked to about slavery, where we get to a point in the discussion where we talk about how the country benefited from slavery, we don't put a number on it, but we recognize how large of a number it is. We recognize that slavery benefited America. America benefited from slavery. And part of the reason why America is one of the greatest countries, if not the greatest country, we call ourselves the greatest, but other people may call themselves the greatest. But the reason why America is as great as it is because there was a period of time where America benefited from free labor. There was a group of people who owned slaves, and they did not have to pay them any money for their work. They benefited from every aspect of the work that they did, the care for their homes that they received, the logistics of what it took to the logistics of the slaves. They benefited from the slaves finding ingenious ways to do certain things. The slaves, they were owned. They were owned by the people, and so therefore just like if I have cattle, whatever I do and however I profit off of the cattle, you don't give it to the cattle. You may give them food, but you don't give them the fruit of their labor. You don't give them the money from that you brought in from them. And they didn't give it to the slaves. The slaves didn't get any money. And as far as I remember, I don't know if any of them really got what whatever this idea of 40 acres and a mule came from, wherever that came from. I don't know if all the slaves that were freed at the time got that. I don't know if they did, but like I said, my summary here is that if Black people or African American people, I like to just refer to us as Black, but if we as Black people can understand the natural benefits of slavery, then if all we have to do is make one little leap in our understanding to understand the spiritual benefits, and we'd be able to understand that we have a harvest that we have over the years. Black people have tapped into this, but sometimes when you tap into or when you function in something, you don't know that you're functioning in it, or you don't know that you're tapping in it. And when God gives someone the insight to give it a name, to help give it a direction, then you can tap into it or participate in the principle with understanding. So that's why I've called it the One Generation Payback, so that people would understand that basically the spiritual benefits of slavery means that every black person that is a descendant of slavery, the same way that many wealthy white people that benefited from slavery, they can trace their lineage back to whatever their family was doing during slavery. We, as black people, spiritually speaking, we all know if we're in America, we know that it kind of goes back to slavery. And I've never really looked and tried to figure out, what slave plantation I was on, because to be honest with you, I don't care. I have no interest in really figuring out the natural part of it. But the spiritual part of it, I was so happy that because of that part, that's where the promise is. That's where the harvest is. The harvest is in the spiritual part, the spiritual benefits of this thing. As I go into this, I'm going to use the Jacob and Laban story. Jacob was the one that wrestled with God. I'm going to use his time period where he was with his uncle. I'm going to use that as the story to help me explain this. Now, there's probably other ways to explain this, but the way that I understand it and the way that I've implemented it into my life is using this particular story that's found in the Bible, that's found in Genesis chapter 27 through 33. And so, again, if I were going to say that, to summarize it, I would say that we don't need the country to pay us whatever ungodly, whatever amazing amount that we think that we are due. Not only should we not ask for it from people, because reparations, when you start talking about reparations, you're asking. We don't need to ask for that anymore. We don't need to bring it up anymore. Reparations is something that just like when you bring up slavery, reparations, one part of, kind of a recompense for the wrong of slavery. We don't even need to talk about that anymore, because if you get this one generation payback idea, if you understand it, then you'll see that just like certain white people, they were born into a situation where they didn't have to contend with their lineage and what happened to how they got to a certain situation. They didn't have to contend with how they're going to put money together for their life. They didn't have to contend with many of the things that a lot of black people have dealt with. Now, again, I'm not saying that all white people are dealing with I'm not saying that all white people have the same boat situation. Neither do all black people have the same boat situation, are in the situations in the same boat. Okay? So what I'm saying is that black people are 15% of the country. So white people, they are a majority of the country right now. And there are a certain group of white people that know that they benefited from slavery. And again, they may not talk about it, but that group of white people, and I'm not saying that they're bad people. They're not bad people either. But those people, they don't have to think about what their future is going to look like because their family has enough wealth for them to just tap into what the family does. And even if they do something different from what the family does, they still have access to the family wealth, or at least the family's momentum that originated and started from slavery. And so those people can relax with their ideas and their life. They could say, you know what? All right. And then, while they're in their 20s, they have this understanding of knowing that as they pursue whatever it is that they're going to pursue with their life, they know that their family's wealth is available to them at any given point of their life. So they don't have to fight for it. All they have to do is just tap into it whenever necessary. Okay? That's more of the idea that I want black people to understand, that right now we have had access to this ever since the slaves were free. Ever since the slaves were free, probably even before that. We've had access to this. And throughout the years, there have been times where we've seen manifestations of this. Okay, like in the Black Wall Street scenario that I'm going to bring up. This and the times that it's met, this spiritual principle that I call the One Generation Payback, the time that it manifested itself, it caused some problems, and I think I figured out based on what I may be able to show it in the word, but I can at least talk about the situation and explain why I think that we won't have the same problem that Black Wall Street had if we work this One Generation Payback principle, if we work it this specific way. Okay? There is one way in my mind in order to tap into this. And I think that, in other words, the way that I've done it, this is the way that I know for sure that it works, right? And so other people may tap into it and do it a different way. In other words, here's what I mean. The principle of electricity works. If I turn the lights on, turn the lights off, I turn the lights off. One button, turn it on and off. One button, turn it on and off. It wasn't 5 different ways. It was, I accessed the electricity one way in order to get this particular light set up. One way. So I'm saying that in order to work this principle and get this One Generation Payback to work, there's one way that at least I've implemented it a specific way. And when you do that, you are tapping into the principle, and it follows you wherever you go. The same way that if you were born into a family that has a wealth built up from the time of slavery, so they're at this point in 2019 or whatever, or beyond. I'm recording this right now in November on the 29th of 2019. Just the same way that they have access to the wealth of their own family. They don't need to ask anyone else. Wherever they go, hey family, I'm moving to such and such place. I'm gonna move over there. They may have some arguments with family members. Oh, don't go or whatever, but they still are part of that family. And wherever they go, as long as they've got their little bank accounts in order or whatever, they are still connected with the family and the family wealth. And that is the way that this is. The natural lineage of someone who benefited from slavery in the natural. There's a spiritual lineage where I know that I came from slavery. I know my grandfather. And then beyond that, I know my great grandfather existed. So I know that there's people that go back to slavery and eventually it gets back to the person that was on the boat. But slavery was such that people were just moved around. However, they may have kept track, but they kept track, the slave masters, they kept track probably the same way that you would keep track of your inventory. I keep track of my CD jewel cases, my blank CDs, my, I keep track of my songs. I keep track of my gadgets, my computers that I use, my computers and my phones that I use for certain purposes, my webcam. I keep track like that. But if I throw away a webcam because it's broken, I might make a note that I've thrown something away. But I'm not doing a funeral for the thing. I'm not keeping track of it's my property. You know what I'm saying? So so naturally speaking, because I know that that's the way black people were treated back in those days as property. I don't have anything to personally gain by knowing all those details. At least right now, I don't know that I have anything to gain from that. But on the spiritual side, I have everything to gain. And you don't even have to know all the details. I don't have to know by the spirit or the spiritual lineage of anything of myself in order to access this. I know that I'm a descendant of slaves. I know that's how I got to America. Me personally, I mean, I was born here because my parents, were born in Illinois. And so they had me in Illinois. So I know not only was I an Illinoisan, but I'm an American citizen because I was born in America. And I can look at the Constitution or I can look at any of the laws or whatever to understand what it means to be an American citizen. And adding the African-American to my name as an American, because I'm an American. First of all, I know I'm an American. Doggone it. I'm a patriot. I served in the military. By virtue of the fact that I've been in the military for and retired. I'm assuming that people would automatically understand that I'm a patriot. I'm assuming that because I am. I love my country. Just like I love my family, I have problems with certain family members that may need to be addressed, but I love my family. And when it comes to family versus other families, I don't know if I would ever get into a fight to say, hey, you better not mess with my family, right? Because I don't know all the details of everything, and I'm kind of removed from a lot of the family fights, but because I don't think that our family is engaged in any fights like Hatfields and McCoys, and I don't know if my family's involved in any of that. I know that inside of my family we've got our little dynamics, but when my grandmother passed away, all of us made it to the funeral. And there was a certain thing that my grandmother put, had as an ethic that my aunts and my dad, that they followed, that benefited naturally. There was some natural substance, money that came to all the grandchildren at a certain point, and bless the Lord for that. I've never wow, that's awesome. You know what I'm saying? That's awesome. This is a black family where the grandmother, where the grandmother had enough to impress upon the grandmother and the grandfather, my grandparents. They had enough to impress upon their children to enact a rule that they put in place for their family lineage. And I'm part of I got to benefit from being a part of Nancy Walker's lineage, to being a part of Robert Walker's lineage. Robert and Nancy, who were married, now they are they're buried one on top of the other one in a columbarium, and I can go and see both of their names together, and I can put in my mind that they, as my grandparents, they moved the lineage. They moved their family lineage. Their decisions that they made with their life moved the family forward somehow, because they moved it so far that by the end of their life, someone sent me some money to say, you're part of this family. Here you go. Take this and now move forward. And so then my cousins and my brothers and sisters, we all in our way get to move the family lineage even further. And that's just the natural lineage that I'm a part of. That's as far back as I really know and really care to know. I know that when I got my little piece of money, bless the Lord, I'm going to use this to move the family forward somehow. And part of that is what you're looking at right now. And you go to my website, I feel that I'm doing my part to be a blessing, not just to my family, but be a blessing to the world. But I'm moving my little chess pieces across the board as far as I can. And with the spiritual lineage that we have as black people, or African American people, the One Generation Payback is something that we should look at as something that when we had, by us understanding it and applying it, then when we apply it to ourselves, then we end up benefiting the same way that I benefited from being a part of my grandmother and my grandfather's family. You get to the white person that his family lineage, they have an origin in slavery. They have slavery is part of their lineage. They just tap into it and it's no big deal. You and I, as black people, we are able to tap into this and just function in it, and there's no craziness or weird things you got to do related to it. And I'll also be explaining too that we've been functioning in the one generation harvest, as I call it. We've been functioning in this principle, and this principle has been working. But because we, as black people, our esteem doesn't see ourselves individually, our individual esteems, meaning, corporately, we've got varying degrees or varying gradations of what how we see ourselves. Some of us see ourselves as the N-word. Some of us see ourselves as black, and some of us see ourselves in different ways that doesn't, from person to person, you're going to get a different full answer. There are certain things that we all agree on when you go from person to person, but there's just things that, we've got our different things. And this is something, this One Generation Payback does not require that we all believe the same thing. Electricity does not require that we all believe in the same God, believe in the same ethic or principles of other stuff. We just know, and we all stipulate and just agree. When I walk into the room, if I flip that switch, the lights should come on. And if the lights don't come on, two things. Either I didn't pay the bill, or there's something wrong with the electricity the breaker might be messed up or something like that. There might be other reasons, but generally speaking, human beings that are not electricians or anything like that, the regular average human being, white or black, you flip on the light switch, it usually works. And that's what we're expecting. And that is how simple I want for people to understand the One Generation Payback. Don't look at it like it's deep. It's not. It's light switch. Okay? One Generation Payback, light switch. One Generation Payback, gravity. It's simple. It may be profound. Oh my God, did you know that if you throw something up, it'll come down? Ooh. Simple. One Generation Payback, direct deposit. Right? It is simple. You give them the piece of paper with your bank account on it, and then your boss or your company, human resources, they know this is where we take the money that he earned and we put it into this account. Boom. The One Generation Payback, ovulation. The One Generation Payback is a principle. Ovulation. You know what happens. I'm ovulating. That means if we're going to have a baby, we need to go ahead and do it now. So you better use some protection. We not, blah, blah, right? So it's that simple. You know you're ovulating. So there are certain things that you put in place, because ovulation, when you do something, you do one thing, and that ovulation process, either you're going to fertilize the egg and it starts a process that goes for, however many years that child is alive, or you make sure that nothing fertilizes, so then the ovulation process is over, and then, right? Ovulation, very simple. People understand it. It can be deep. You can go into it, explain it, and whatever. One Generation Payback, this is not deep. Don't look at it as deep. Don't look at it as profound. This is not a big revelation. Do not even look at it like that. Some other people may have come up with the same thing that I'm about to tell you about, and whatever they've named it, if I look at their material, right, and it's the same thing, I don't mind forfeiting my name, One Generation Payback, that I've given it, and calling it what they call it, right? Because to be honest with you, I don't care who gets this information, because that's another part of this. For me personally, I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. I'm not trying to fix the problems of society, personally, because I'm not really invested in America's. I'm not invested in solving the world's problems. I spent 20 years in the military, and so I've given America over 20 years of my of my life and of my time and my dedication. There were times that I had to neglect my family in order to serve at the level that they needed me to serve, and serve with the same distinction and dignity. I had to tell my family, hey, I'll be back. I love you. And while I'm away, call and continue to love them and be dedicated to them while I'm over here serving. I've had to do that before. I'm at the end of that. I don't need to do that anymore. You see what I'm saying? And that doesn't make me less vested in the success of this world, because my children need to live here. I'm a taxpayer. That's the second thing. I'm a taxpayer. So as a taxpayer, I'm also as vested in the success of America as I could possibly be. 20 years of military service, 20 years or more of military service. I'm invested as I've made an investment. I've gotten a paycheck, so the world doesn't owe me anything. The Army at a certain point is going to give me a pension. Bless the Lord for that. So I've done some stuff and something's coming back to me. There are a lot of people who appreciate, thank you for your service. There are Vietnam vets who never felt the love and appreciation for military service that I've received. Wow. Amazing. Oh my God, that's such a huge freaking thing in my head to wrap my mind around, because Vietnam vets, that time period, they were dealing with a lot of stuff. When they came back, people were spitting on them. And if you know that there's a Vietnam vet, I would love it if you could just go to that person and love on them somehow. But not everybody knows where a Vietnam vet is at in order to do something like that. But with soldiers now, you see them running around. If you know they're in the military, people walk up to me. People walk up to other people. Thank you for your service. And I thank God. I thank God for me living in this time period and not sooner than that. I thank God for it. So, my patriotism, you don't have to question it. I love this country. And I've served. And so that is one investment point. I've got invested. I'm invested or vested in the success of this, of the country. Number two, I'm a taxpayer. I've been paying taxes for my entire work life. I'm going to continue to pay taxes. And so, I've got to say somehow in our society. The third thing, I'll get into those later. Forget it. I'll get into those later. Now, if we've come to this point of this discussion, this is the kind of this is the pre-introduction summary of the One Generation Payback. All I've done so far is just introduce the idea. You've gotten a chance to look at my notes. This is what I'm going to talk from. Those are the notes. If you've gotten to this far, this is kind of the ad or the summary. You can just take a look at my notes and you can go off and run out and figure it out for yourself. You don't need to buy the whole package and hear me talk for however long I'm going to talk. Right? You got the notes. I have this image. I already tweeted this image. So if you find me on Twitter, Ellipsis on Twitter, then you'll be able to get this graphic right here. And then you can talk to God about it, because that's the same thing that happened here. This person, he didn't talk about One Generation Payback. This particular preacher, he was talking about it. And one of the things that he said stuck out to me. And I said, okay, Lord, I need to do some digging on this. And I dug and I come up with this and I implemented this thing over 16 or so years ago. Let me see, what year was that? somewhere between 1999 and 2001, somewhere in there is when I implemented this thing into my life. So we're looking at roughly either 20 years or almost 20 years ago that I understood this and I implemented it into my life. I didn't know this. And listen, I implemented it into my life the same way that you implement, all right, I have the water bill, I've got the electricity bill, I've got the heat bill, I've got the cable bill, I've got the car gas bill. I've got to get food. Just like you put your budget together or you put all your expenses together. That's how this One Generation Payback works in my life. It's just one of many things I got going on in my life. You know what I'm saying? Right now, I feel like, whoa, this is a deep, oh my God. But at the time, I was just being obedient or whatever. You see what I'm saying? So just like with when you put your list, if you put down your budget, what you pay every month, none of those things are like, ooh. But really, it's like a big deal. Oh my God, you pay for lights. And you pay this amount for lights. Whether that's a high number or that's a low number, you're like, wow, I pay this for lights. I pay this in food. Wow. You look at your budget. With One Generation Payback, I have a spiritual thing. I have a list. Here's the one. You got apps on your phone. With Google Play, you go in and you can look at all the apps that you've ever downloaded and all the apps that you currently have on your phone that you may have paid for or whatever, and current apps that you take on your phone, but you still got your list of apps. I got a list of biblical principles that I implemented into my life at any given point of my life, and ones that I need to tap into. Like there are certain apps on this phone, which is my iPhone that is not hooked up to the not hooked up. And then I got my Droid. I got a couple of Droids. This one is hooked up. And then I got these Droids, right? And all of these looks ridiculous, but each of these, because the apps, so many apps have certain things going on, I will use certain apps to do certain things. And so it's almost like I just need this app, this phone is only strong enough to handle one or two apps. So that I need. So this will only be this phone and that phone. Boom. That's all you'll do. So I'll keep it here, and then when I need to do that, I'll grab that phone. Boom. Why don't I put them all on one phone? Because there's so many apps that I need to use, so many ways for me to do what I gotta do, or whatever. So that's my point. And then you got computers, and I've got multiple computers because you don't put the whole workload onto one computer. You just don't do that. You divide your workload or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't back in slavery days, they didn't use one slave to do everything. No, you got your field slaves, and then you got your slaves that are in the house. And then the ones that are in the house, you got the ones that care for the children, and then the ones that do that. And then you got you got the ones that you never whatever. So these are my slaves. They are my smartphones. So if I move on to another phone, I say, does this thing still have use? Because I don't want to just throw a phone away when I can just use it for something. Because I learned a while ago that we have more technology in these phones than they had in the phones. In the whole thing the whole rocket that they sent to the moon, apparently. I don't know that to be true, but that's what somebody told me. And I'm like, if that's the case, then, oh snaps, this thing is powerful. When I move on to another phone, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't really fully utilize everything in this phone. You see what I'm saying? And that's the same thing with the Bible. I don't just read the Bible. There's biblical principles in here that you implement into your life. So if I'm going to get the most out of my life, I need to put these principles in place, and I need to work these principles. So anyway, that's my introduction. So let me finalize this introduction. The Matt Ellipsis Show. I've been working on my show for years. Since 2013 is when I did my first actual show. The show probably sounds horrible in comparison to now. So you can go back. I have all my episodes right on my website, emptydots.com. If you look, just browse around, you'll find where the Mad Ellipsis show, Mad Ellipsis show lineage is, right? And so each iteration of the show has been greater than the one before. This current season, or this current iteration of the show, the city of Toma has asked me to be has asked for the Mad Ellipsis show to help them get information out, because this is what they told me. And I got an email to this effect. Such a blessing. They said, Matt, you get information out quicker and more efficiently than the newspaper out here. Whoa, right? That's a big deal. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for that. So I took that on, and boom, the Mad Ellipsis show is for the city of Toma. We will be helping the city of Toma disseminate information, right? Which is awesome. That's a big responsibility. I take it very seriously, and that's what I'm doing. The second thing is that by the time you hear this, the VA and I will have already done work in this vein, where earlier this week they asked me to start putting out positive news related to the VA. Meaning, I'm a person that hunts and enjoys bringing positive things out. There's a scripture. Let me see if I can find it real quick. If there be any virtue. So this particular scripture, the VA doesn't say, hey, we need you to follow this particular scripture, but this is my philosophy when it comes to dealing with the VA, an entity in the earth, an entity in America, a quasi-governmental government entity that has some complicated history, some complicated scenarios that they're in, where they've got news that they can't control everything that's said about them, but they've looked at what I do, and they felt that by having me come in and help out, that I'd be able to help by, here it is. Finally, brothers and sisters, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is noble, whatsoever is right, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. My time with the VA will be about that. There's probably a bunch of stuff that are negative or whatever. It's not my responsibility to deal with that. But mine is, and it's not my responsibility to cover anything up. And not saying that they're going to do anything bad. I believe the VA, there are a lot of well-intentioned people at the VA, and I thank God for them, because they know when they go to work every day, there's a bunch of people that they're trying to serve and bless. You see what I'm saying? So they got me. So now I'm going to be, as of this moment, it's going to be, but I've already done some work in that vein that I was sent to them, that I already showed them that I've already done. But now it will be with the backing, or with their blessing and our coordination. Thank God. So now for Toma, I'm an information wing, and for the Toma VA, I'm going to be helping them, bring out wonderful stories or wonderful information, positive information getting out there. And then thirdly, I just got a text. I just got a text from this radio station that said, "Hey, I have a project. So I want you to think on this." And she describes the project in here or whatever, which means that I'll be able to be helping with the radio station do some stuff. Thank you, Lord. And anyway, the point is that the Matt Ellipsis show is showing up in various ways, and I believe that my show is very agile and it's permanent. In other words, when I do something, I never have to take it back or take it down. All I have to do, it's up, it's available, and then I move on to the next thing, and it's up and available. Always advancing. And wherever I take the show, we're advancing, and we're going to take it and do what God wants us to do. You understand what I'm saying? So thank you for all the people who invested in the Matt Ellipsis show in the earlier iterations. Thank you for listening. Those of you who listened, between the beginning and now. Thank you for people who have supported me. People have come to live events. Thank you all for everything that you've done to make the Matt Ellipsis show be what it is now and be what it's going to be for others. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And my hope and my goal is to continue to serve all of you as best as I can and as best as we as an entity or as a company can. So, all right, so that's that. So then Toma Radio is my local radio station in Toma, where I started it less than a month ago. The grand opening hasn't even happened yet. The grand opening is in December on the 31st and the 1st of January of 2020. Everything's not even fully up and running, and I've already got requests and things people have said, "Hey, we want you to do this, we want you to do that," and whatever. Thank you, Lord, that at the beginning, this radio station has already begun it's begun the best it could possibly be. I could go into details later on a different broadcast because I am working on I just wrote one called I'm gonna record a discussion called the new era of broadcasting, and Toma Radio is front and center regarding that, so that you guys understand where we're headed as a company, as well as what this environment provides us and how wonderful of an environment that we're living in. This is the best time for anyone in my mind to have lived. This right here, where we're in right now, I can't think of a better time right now to have lived. So anyway, so I encourage you, if you want to purchase this discussion or teaching called the One Generation Payback, I'd be grateful if you did purchase it. You can purchase it for yourself or for a group. When you get it, I personally feel that it'll be a blessing to you. I think that you will not only enjoy it, but you'll get a lot out of it. And again, like I said, it's very simple. If you look at the notes here, all you got to do, you don't even need to buy it. But by buying it, you're gonna get all of my thoughts on this particular situation and the benefit of my 20 years of implementing it and functioning in this for 20 years. And but you can do it on your own. You know what I'm saying? It's all up to you. Some people are natural cooks. You can just go read what I read. So now, thank you very much. You have a good one. Thanks for your time. What is there anything wrong, son? Is there something wrong, son?
Oh. No, I was just listening to your music. Oh, we're recording.
Here, I took what you wrote and I made it a little bit, I polished it a little bit. Try that.
This is Nathan.
Don't put it in your face. You're looking in the camera.
This is Nathan of m3dots.com. At our website, you will find music, sermons, comedy, and podcasts. I am Matt's firstborn son, and I know he is...
Because you made M-A-T-T. You did that.
And I know he is married, awesome, tactical, and tough.
Oh, tough.
Married, awesome, tactical, and tough. Now, if you'll excuse me, you
start over.
Okay, so this is Nathan of M3.
Look in the camera. Just memorize it. You already know what it says.
This is Nathan from m3dots.com. At our website, you will find music, sermons, comedy, and podcasts.
You are now listening to an m3dots.com free download. Thank you for your support. You are now listening to an m3dots.com free download. Thank you for your support. This is not a secret, tight hold like no spiteful, lack of insightful, not no rival. Society, hold no eye, it's irony. Cattle on 1,000, my propriety. More than the zeitgeist, hands down decidedly. The king of Babylon ate pine, then no pint of meat. Some of the council said finally. I'm patient, think refinery. Think about the peace, be still, voice, real choice, third seal, big reveal it all. Lay hands, heal them all. Cast the net, get them all. Highways, byways, meet them all. Banquet, invite, met them all. Set them all down, break bread, ass. If it was the last, I just makes you crash. But let's not let this moment pass. Because when you grasp it, you'll remember. When you do this, please don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please remember me. Please, oh please, don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please. In the era of the first dot, I faced all my fears. Second dot era, time to manifest my beard. It don't grow long, but it is triumphant. Ellipsis afro, Amish city bumpkin. When I shave, they say I look 25. When I was in my 40s, it felt good to be alive. I thrive in discomfort cause I know when my cheese moves. She mistakes it for macho, my cheese move. Foresight, 2036 vision. Nobody earthly can stop my mission. I said that I must and I did what God projected. Underground sound, kingdom music is protected by the orange, purple, gold of the district. Whenever you see me, I'm about my father's business. That's why every song got anointment on it. You can let your kids listen without cringing what's on it. The music of today needs a tweak from the king. That's why I'm persisting with the message that I bring. In the third dot era, everybody sings. That's why I'm persisting with the message that I bring. In the era of the first dot, I made full proof. Second dot era, my proof bears fruit. Don't forget m3dots.com. Do this in remembrance, please remember me when you do this, please. Don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please remember me. Please, oh please, don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please. The wafer represents the word. It took flesh when you ingest. You know you are blessed. The juice is just a taste of redemption. Oh, the blood was shed for you. The wafer represents the word. It took flesh.
flesh when you ingest. You know you are blessed. The juice is just a taste of redemption. Oh, the blood was shed for you. When you do this, please don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please remember me. Please, oh please, don't do it in the frivolous ambivalence as traditionally. See what I mean? Do this in remembrance, please remember me. Represents the word, it took flesh when you ingest. You know you are blessed. The juice is just a taste of redemption. Oh, the blood was shed for you. The wafer represents the word, it took flesh when you ingest. You know you are blessed. The juice is just a taste of redemption. Oh, the blood was shed for you.